Thanks again for listening to the Mills Social Talk Podcast. This is Leroy at Mills Realty Managing Broker, and today we have attorney Linda Bell with us. She will tell us what we need to do. A lot of people ask me, so what does an attorney do? So today is a fabulous education about why you need to hire a real estate attorney, why you need to not do this on your own, and we'll look at the pitfalls, what can happen if you don't hire an attorney. So today we have Linda Bell from Linda Bell Associate. We are in Itasca, guys, so we're in a great little town, right? Itasca.
We're in Mayberry.
Mayberry town.
For those of you that are old enough to remember Andy Griffith.
Andy Griffith, yeah.
And Mayberry. It's a small little town, 7,000 people, and everybody knows everybody, so I just love it here.
All right, so Linda, tell me a little about you, how long you've been in business, and what do you do? So introduce for the folks who have never, and I'm sure some of the people have met you because I'm sure you've closed some ideas. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure they've met you, and now and some of them that you haven't met.
Okay.
You do it on the phone, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about who you are, so that now they get to see you.
Okay. Well, hello everyone, and I'm just thrilled and honored to be here on this podcast with Leroy. Thank you again for asking me.
I appreciate you for coming out.
A little bit about me. I am an attorney. I went to college at Loyola University, majored in finance and accounting, and then went on to law school for 2 years until my mom got cancer. Dropped out of law school to be with her, and then went back 6 years later and finished law school at night. So I am
That's fabulous.
Yeah, I family comes first, and it always has. So when Mom was sick, I just wanted to be with her. But I managed to go back and get my law degree and my MBA JD. So got a lot of initials after my name, but what I really love is helping people. I love helping them out of financial situations, and buying real estate is one of the largest transactions that any of you will make. And that's my passion. Real estate, when done well, asks a lot of questions in the beginning, but then we structure the deal such that there's no problems at the end. The background that I have is, in addition to doing real estate, I also help people with estate planning, and I help people who have problems with the IRS. It makes me feel good to help people, and that's what drives me. I've been doing this for, hate to say it, but 30 years. Well, they go fast, and 25 of them in this office in Itasca. So it's been, this is more my home than my actual personal residence. And I'm very fortunate. When the recession came, my husband, who's a licensed civil engineer, the company he worked for closed their door, and John and I started working together, and for the last 12 years, he's been my number one paralegal. So John helps me a lot with legal things, and with the bookkeeping and the work involved behind the scenes, and it's a marriage made in heaven.
It is.
Because I understand many people can't
work
do
together.
That. Yeah, they're fine as a married couple, but we said that if it doesn't work, then he's got to go find an engineering job. And now an engineering firm who's working on the roadway in front of us came in, and my husband and the engineers started talking, and they asked if he'd be interested in coming in and working. And I said, leave.
Yeah,
You're not taking him. So it's amazing how full circle life is. But in terms of my real estate deals and my clients, the sales, as you know, Lee, right? The sales, I treat them differently than the buys. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're doing a similar thing, purchasing a piece of property, but my role as the attorney is way different. So let's start with the buys.
Okay, so as you know, for most of the people, for those of you guys who listen, and we have a number of you guys who are loyal to our listening audience, you know that we bring you the best of the Mill Social Talk podcast. We always bring you people with lots of experience. We don't bring you people who are new or green. Not that they're not great. I'm sure they're great too. But we like to bring you, especially when it comes to like important stuff like this. I want you guys to listen to hear from people who got the experience, who have been around the block, who knows what they're talking about. So right now, as we as we move forward, so you want to start talking about buy and what you do
Uh-huh.
as a buyer's attorney, and then we'll get into the seller. So let's start with the buyer. So what's most important?
The most important thing is that the buyer finds the house that they want. And that's where you come in.
That's where I come in, yes.
That's where you give them the houses to look at, and you select based upon their wish list, and you help negotiate the price.
Absolutely. That's where I came in. That's where I come in.
Exactly. So, Leroy, once you've negotiated a price, then with the client's approval, you send me a copy of the contract.
Absolutely.
Then I jump in. I will review the contract with the client because I don't like surprises or whoopses. Sometimes there's minor issues with personal property or closing dates, coordinating if they're doing a buy and a sell, or coordinating when their lease expires and when their purchase closing date is. So these are all things that I've got to just monitor and keep track of. And then the contract that we use, the standard real estate board contract, has two contingencies that buyers use right away. The first is a home inspection contingency, and that Leroy helps me too, because he goes out and has the buyer have a professional home inspection. Professional home inspectors over the years have found things like there's structural damage. They'll find that because they'll see that the doors aren't closing well, or that they put a marble down on a floor and it rolls. That means that the structure is out of balance. They've also found problems in attics. A client went in an attic with her inspection person, and the inspection person said, "We got to get out of this house. The roof could fall at any time."
It happens.
Yeah,
it happens. Yeah,
it's strange accidents, but they took trusses out of the roof to give more storage. And the roof was not adequately supported.
It happens.
So as an attorney, when I get situations like that, it's my job to ask the seller's attorney for relief. The relief may come in the form of money, where we would decide what's going to cost to fix the problem. And sometimes we ask for money because where a situation needs stitches, to use a medical analogy, we want money for stitches. We don't want a Band-Aid put over it and not get enough money. So the relief may be monetary, or if it's little things like there's no smoke detectors, or the electrical outlet in the bathroom is not GFI, ground fault interruption, protected. Now, to just back up a moment, GFI, we just talked shorthand.
We need to break it down.
Right, so I'll break down the shorthand.
Sure.
GFCI stands for ground fault interrupter. And if you've ever been in the bathroom and you're washing your hands and then you decide you want to pick up the curling iron, if you're a girl, or I guess some guys might curl their hair now. So you pick it up and you're going to short out the electrical. So rather than have a shock going into your system, a ground fault interrupter will break off the electrical current so that this wet hand with the curling iron doesn't get electrocuted. So if you have to have those by code within 6 feet of any outlet in the bathroom and in the kitchen or in the laundry room or in the garage if there's water spigot in the garage. So that's something the home inspector points out, and it's something that I would routinely ask for, because the kit for the GFCI is $20 at Home Depot, and then maybe a handyman to put it in is another 100 or so. Then we could just trust that they put it in, and you test it at the final walkthrough. So runs a range from the roof is falling down to you need a different outlet in the bathroom, but the home inspector would point out the issues to you, and then I would write them up and address the letter to the seller's attorney. So once the contract is accepted by the seller, Leroy no longer negotiates directly.
No.
I do that. But Leroy helps me in the sense that he's out and seen the property, and he helps get the home inspector that's qualified. So we work together. It's like ebb and flow. And when you've worked with someone for a long time, you kind of know how they work. And I am so blessed to have Leroy in my life. And
I'm so blessed to have Linda, because I'm comfortable. When Linda is on a deal, I'm like, okay, I'm sleeping well. I don't think about it. And that's how I like it.
And I didn't pay him to say that. Thank you, Leroy.
That's true.
That's a big compliment.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know what I love about your clients? They know what's going on.
I do, because I tell them.
Yeah, you educate them. I get some buyers that are like, what's going to happen next? And then I have to sit down and say, okay, this is the process. This is the time frame. And Leroy's clients, he just walks you through it so that you're calm and collected. And then I just make sure that you're legally protected, because that's important too. No matter what piece of real estate you buy, it's an expense, and it's one of the biggest expenses that you'll have. So I take it very personally. I want your house to be perfect in the sense that everything that we can get corrected by the seller, we ask for. There is also an attorney review contingency. Now, in plain English, the contracts that all realtors use have a contingency that says the attorney can review the contract during the next 5 business days. So a business day is a Monday through Friday that's not a federal holiday. And it gives me time to look over the contract. Most of the time, the contract with Leroy's clients is perfect. I don't have to change anything, except I add things to further protect you, the buyer. Well, what am I going to add? On a buy, I'll always add another contingency. It's called the house appraisal contingency. And that means if you bought, I'm going to just stick with houses because we'll keep it consistent. If you bought a house for $200,000 and that was the sales price that the seller accepted, I want to know that the lender has the appraisal value at least $200,000. Now, if the appraisal is done and the house appraises for $205,000, you don't have to pay extra money. But if it appraises for $195,000, I don't want you to pay $5,000 extra. And by adding this contingency to the contract, that's how I legally protect you from overpaying. Now, when I add in the contingency, the sellers will typically agree to it. If there should be a $5,000 discrepancy, some sellers may say, I'll meet you in the middle, I'll lower the price to $2,500. Some sellers may say, I don't want to lower the price, but at least you're not overpaying and the ball is in your court. You, the buyer, decide if you love this house so much and it checks every one of your boxes that you're willing to pay a little bit more, because over 30 years of a mortgage, $5,000 is not that extra much money out of your pocket. So it all depends on you. But by giving you this contingency, I protect it such that you make the decision if the house doesn't appraise out. Another question that I ask is, in the winter, they can't test the air conditioner. What I've been told by home inspectors is that it has to be at least 60 for 3 days, or if you turn on the air conditioner and it hasn't been 60 for the 3 days, then the condenser can be burned out. So we don't want to burn out the condenser. So in the contract, I say the seller represents and warrants that the air conditioner was in good working condition the last time they used the air conditioning. And what that means is when you turn on the air conditioning the first time in the spring, and if it's working, we're great. If it needs a freon charge, it's on you. That's a maintenance item. But if it turns out that the air conditioner could not have worked in the last summer season, then we have a right legally to go back to the seller and say, look, you made a representation that the air conditioning was working. Here's our receipt for the repair work, and we need you to pay it. And that's another protection that I can offer you by putting in there that the air conditioning is in good working condition. Yet another protection, Leroy, that I always like is about mold.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Mold is health and safety. If there's mold in a house, it comes because there's moisture coming in and not enough ventilation to get the mold out of there. If you breathe in the mold spores, which get airborne, it can damage your lungs forever. You have COPD, chronic, I'm not...
Pulmonary.
Pulmonary.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't want you to get sick. You know, you can love your house and it's your dream house, but if you get sick there and can't breathe as well, that's a horrible nightmare. So if there's mold, that's something we want to know if the seller corrected. Because the seller could have corrected mold with bleach on a rag and just went, but that's not removing the source of the mold. Moisture's coming in somewhere that's causing that mold to grow, and we need to find out where the moisture's coming from and that it's corrected. So a question that I ask under penalties of perjury is, was there any mold remediation done? Because that's important. If they say yes, then I want to know what you fixed.
Yeah.
And show me
Where
the
it was.
receipts. And so we want to know that it's been rectified. Mold can come in the attic. Wouldn't you say it's about most of the time in the attic?
But where you don't see it.
Yeah.
Because people don't go up in their attic unless it's their usable attic. But
Right.
a lot of times the attic is small, and there's leak on the edge of your roof. And if you don't have an inspector who actually goes in there and look at it, you could have mold in the corner.
Yep.
Right?
And you can have mold in the corner in a laundry room situation, in a basement where it's leaking somewhere from it's coming in seepage wise, and they just didn't catch it. So the home inspector will catch that and find mold. Then we also follow up with the question that, did you do any mold cleanup? Because again, the bleach on the rag and they cleaned it, inspector's not going to see it.
Can't see, no.
But we have the seller's statement that they didn't have any mold remediation. I also want a seller's statement that they don't have seepage or condensation coming in, because that can be another thing. Sometimes the windows aren't closed tight enough. Sometimes there's a gap, and when the wind blows with a strong westerly wind, they get water in. And it's important to know if there's any water issues. Does seepage come in under the door when there's a heavy north wind? Another request that I make of the seller that I want a representation is, did they pull permits when required? Maybe they put a beautiful deck on this new house that you bought, and they didn't pull a permit.
They do it on the weekends without the city being there.
Of course.
Of course.
Isn't that allowed?
It's allowed.
If you do the work Monday through Friday, you need a permit.
Right.
But
Friday and Saturday, no permit.
No permit.
Let's get it done.
Exactly. So it could look beautiful, but if the footings aren't deep enough, you're going to have crash on your deck. So I want to confirm in writing that the seller pulled permits for any work that required it. That's just another way to protect you, because, if this isn't something you do day in and day out, it's not something that occurs to you. To Leroy and me, it's commonplace.
Yes, what we do.
Yeah, and we know to look for it, but it's just, you need us on your team to protect you, because we don't want to have a problem down the road. Another thing that I'll be looking for is to confirm the seller is available to talk to us at closing. I just had a closing this morning. It started at noon. Well, it started as supposed to at 9, but the lender couldn't get the papers ready. So we pushed it back till noon, and it's just finishing at 2:30. They couldn't get in touch with the seller to ask questions. So it's just, you do the final walkthrough, and the garage is loaded with stuff. Toilets and rubber tires, and the seller promised to have the garage in broom swept condition, but Leroy, we've all been there, that it's just terrible. They didn't take the things out. And then the seller can't be reached, and then the seller's attorney says, I'm sorry, I don't have the liberty to give you $300 for the trash cleanup. So it's just, I always want to state in my attorney letter that the seller will be available to talk at closing, because in case we need $300 for the repair cleanup, that we will get it. And again, my job and Leroy's job is to make you whole.
Yep.
So those are the beginning stages. And let's go back over the timeline, because I'm talking about a lot of different things
There's a
here.
lot of things we talked about.
Yes. So the moving parts on a buy.
Yeah.
You find the house you love. Leroy helps you negotiate the price. You get a contract signed and accepted by the seller. I get the contract I write the attorney review letter, home inspection letter, and I negotiate those responses. Next, we move to the next hurdle of the purchase real estate transaction, and that's the appraisal.
Let's do this because I want there's something that came to my mind that some clients asked me for that I want you to address.
Okay.
I think one of her deals. After the attorney review letter, the buyer want to ask for something else. And we know, I mean, once it's closed, it's closed. How do you normally handle that?
Well, let's say the attorney review is closed and it occurs to the buyer that something is missing. My job is always to ask the question.
Yeah.
I learned in law school, if you don't ask the question, the answer
Yeah,
is
is
always no. So I will ask the question. But I have to, as an attorney, I play chess in my head. I look at what would a judge say. Because I got to know what the answer is. And if a judge is going to say, you didn't ask for it in the contract, it wasn't in the attorney review, you can't get it, then I don't write it as a legal request, but I'll write it as this would make the buyer really happy. And if they're happy, maybe they can, get the financing in order. Because we have one last contingency, the financing contingency. And I always want to leverage, you want to close this, right? And you want to get your money for the sellers. And that's how I try to do it, where I'll try to sweet talk
because
them.
we have to let the buyers understand. Listen, you never asked for it now. You come on, but we will still ask, and that's your job to ask. And what we do, we ask, and we talked about it. Let's see what happens.
Exactly.
If the worst thing they can say is no, but at least I'm glad you said it. If you don't ask, the answer is no.
Exactly.
So we ask for everything our clients ask us for. Even for me, I try to represent my client that way. If you tell me that you want to so and so, I'm going to go to the table for you. If they back me up and says no, you can't get this, fine. Then I'm like, okay, but I'm glad we talked about that because that happens all the time. Not with one or two, but a lot of clients who comes and they say, and then we're like, oh, sorry. But I mean, that's the reason why I appreciate you. That if we get into that situation, I said, Linda, we got to ask because the client asked, and then at least you go to bat for them, and what happens. But we don't walk away from them.
Exactly. And I learned a long time ago, the words I choose can help us get an answer that's acceptable. If I have a strong legal case, then I present a strong letter.
Right.
But if I don't, then I, try to write it as kindly, as gently, and say they love your house, but they forgot to ask for the pool. We know it's there, but it just never got in the contract. Or they don't want you to. They ask if you could leave the fire pit. It just didn't occur to them till now. And it's so lovely, and they would so enjoy getting it, and just kind of flower up the sellers and boost up their ego, and then send it with a prayer and hope that
happens.
Hope that we get a yes.
So we were at the appraisal because.
Okay.
Right, so you were going to talk about the appraisal, and by the way, you are listening to Linda Ball from Linda Ball Associates, and she's an attorney with Illinois. I mean, you guys, some of you guys know who she is. Some of you guys probably talked to her. But if you're looking for a great attorney, Linda Ball Associates, what's your number?
My phone number is 630-285-0255.
Okay.
Should I repeat it?
Yeah.
630-285-0255.
I got you. Again, you're listening to Linda Ball. So Linda, we're going to continue.
Okay.
All right. So you were at appraisal.
Okay. We talked about it a little. If you bought the house for $200 and the appraisal comes out at $205, you don't have to go ahead and pay extra money. You just got a house and you got more equity in it. But if it comes out at like $195, that would be my responsibility to ask the seller to lower the price. The seller may say, yes, we'll lower the price. They may say, we'll split the difference. And many times when the house doesn't appraise, if we split the difference, I guess in negotiating, if the seller feels that they want a little bit, the buyer feels they want a little bit, then everybody's kind of happy. So many times we'll split the difference 50-50. And other times, it's just the house is worth it. And especially in this hot market, Leroy.
Oh, yeah, it's hot.
Yeah, there's
So-
no inventory.
Absolutely none.
And a seller's house goes on the market and it sells, you get 15 offers.
28 hours, 24 hours.
Yes,
It's sold.
yes,
Many homes sold in hours these days.
yes.
So
So it's just, it's everything is negotiable, but to a point. So if it appraised a little bit under, how I do it is the ball is in your court. You, the buyer, will decide whether you want to go forward with this deal, or if you want to nix it and say, Leroy, find me another house. So let's assume that we have the second hurdle. The first is home inspection, then it's the appraisal, and now we're on to closing. Closing is where the papers are set in process, and there's 3 sets of documents. The first set of documents would be the lender's documents. There's only 3 important ones: the numbers, how much money do you owe, the note, and the mortgage, to make sure you're getting the right amount of money that you had requested and at the right interest rate and for the right number of years. The second set of documents is from the seller. We need to know that they're transferring the ownership to you as you want your name to be on the deed. If you're a married couple, I would strongly suggest that you take title as tenants by the entirety. It's available only if you are a married couple and if you're going to live in this house as your own personal residence. What it does is it has one big positive and no negatives. And the big positive can be best explained as if one of you gets into a lawsuit. The lawsuit happens and you lose, and you don't have enough liability insurance to pay off the claim. Tenants by the entirety on your home saves your house from being required by court order to sell it. And when you do choose to sell it, the proceeds are split, 50% for the one spouse and 50% for the other spouse. The spouse who had the damages against them, their half of the check goes to the person who they injured or who they lost to in the lawsuit. So it's a wonderful protection that you always need if you're married and this is your personal residence. If you're married and you're buying an investment property, tenants by entirety won't work. But if you're married and it's going to be your home, then it will work. So the seller's documents, I need to make sure that they're perfect, that they have the transfer of conveyance is there, that the chain of title is there, that the person who owns the house is selling it to you, not...
Let's stop there for a minute, because so we've talked about purchase. We'll next week.
Okay.
I want you to continue as we kind of move through this problem, because there's a lot, and I'm so, me and you could be talking about this all day.
Mhm.
So again, you're listening to Mills Realty Talk Show. So next week, on the next episode, Linda will come back and continue to talk about tenants in entirety, and we'll tell you how that. Now, if you have any questions, you can always call. You can email us. Go to millsreal.com. Please follow us. Please share. Listen to our podcast. Now this information is so important. You need to share this with someone else, because some people think they've bought home, but they don't know everything that goes on with the house. We're breaking it down for you right now. So go ahead and follow us. And next week, Linda will talk about. So Linda, how do they find you again? What's the phone?
My phone number is 630-285-0255.
And if you want to get a hold of Linda, you can always connect with me at millsreal.com. And until next week, this is the Mills Social Talk Podcast. We'll come back with tenants in entirety on the next season. Thank you, guys. Stay safe.